Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Artist Talk on Art. This is our 34th virtual Monday open studio. We are 501c3. Normally, in normal times, we'd be in the lower west side of New York City. We'd be gathering, as we have for the last 46 years, doing talks monthly or bi-monthly or twice a month. However, due to COVID, this is our response. And, I think COVID has been terrible, but this gathering has been great. We do it every week now. We're able to get people who maybe can't come in from the Hudson Valley, maybe some California guys, Dr. Bob, and people from all over. I think, Veronica, are you in Indiana now? Veronica's in Indiana. And so we've set up a different format. What we've been doing, as most of you know, there are many familiar faces. We share and talk about our art. I like to say it's quite the opposite of a college critique. We look to be very positive, reinforcing. At any time, you can go ahead and ask a question or make a statement. Just say something that you feel you want to say to the artist. And let me say how important it is when artists get positive feedback from other artists. It is, I was in that experience recently when I was on a Zoom, and to have people say nice things about your work, it makes you happy. It reinforces what you do, and it sort of propels you to keep, being an artist, creating. And it's, just as the meanest thing is to hit somebody, the nicest thing is to say something nice to somebody, and it's a very good positive loop. So I want to thank you all for coming. I like to refer to us as a beehive. We have formed a group, and I think since Alyssa's presentation, I also like to think of us as a tribe, and we are connected through this Zoom meeting, and we have become connected, and that's a very important thing in life. Again, we're a 501c3. We're a not-for-profit and a nonprofit. I'm not quite sure which is the proper term. If you'd like to contribute, you can visit our website. We can accept your money almost anyway. And I do want to thank those who have contributed and been very generous. So thank you. I see many faces here who have contributed. So welcome, everybody. And we'll start, I think, Regina, why don't we start with you, okay? I caught you off guard. I think that's good. That's the goal.
She's organized.
So welcome, Regina, and tell me, where are you zooming in from? Nice to see you, Wendy, Roberta. Roberta's one of our board members and one of our regulars.
And soon to be an artist also, by the way.
There we go.
Okay.
Very nice. Regina's gone to screen sharing.
Okay. What I will, I'm pulling up, do you see it? The New York Artist Circle website. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a fairly new website, and since my website that I made by myself collapsed, I decided just to put work on here. So I have not just brand new work, but each of these actually is from a different stage, I would say, in my life. The most current things that I worked on until what I'm doing now, which is not here, had to do with my drawing and painting. I would say that my work really begins with drawing. I really love to draw, and I love to draw people, and I love to draw live. I don't like to draw posed. I don't like still life. I don't like still people. I really like life. And so my website, this didn't open, okay. On this website where I have all that jazz, for the last few years, I went to a weekly, and then it was a bi-monthly meeting of the Jazz Foundation. And I sat, it was free, and it was in their Union Hall. And it was a wonderful Monday night. And what I did was actually draw the musicians as they were jamming, which, you know, it's very fast and it's very free. And then I later worked on, I'm trying to see if these are even here. I worked on doing work, studio work from my drawings. Now, I don't know what's first. These are studio pieces. How do I make it? Is it large enough? I can't tell.
It works for me. Michael, do you know the best way for her to make it larger, or will that sort of lose the program?
Yeah,
Actually,
I feel like that.
yeah, you just use the Control+ button, but
yeah, that's it. So these are fairly fast wash, mostly wash and watercolor, around they're 30 by 40, 24 by 36. You know, they're medium-sized works. I'm hoping that I have the original.
Just give us a little bit longer on each image.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I love to point out, they did a study. People spend like 3 to 6 seconds in front of a work of art.
Can I start again? I'll go back.
Yeah.
I was looking for the drawings, which I'm sure they're here somewhere. Okay, so this was the Harlem Jazz Band. This is the most recent one. That was last December when the Harlem Jazz Band came and they jammed, you know, at the Christmas celebration. And I did some drawings of it, and then this is actually the last piece of work I did in the studio, because after this, I didn't go back to the studio. It was COVID. So it's not quite finished. It's like one session, but it has a vitality that I look for. So I'm not going to try to finish it. This is one of the first things I did of Michael, who plays the saxophone.
Regina, you said something earlier, you love to draw. Can you sort of explain to us what you feel the difference is between drawing and painting? And I'll preface it by saying, I can see the drawing. I don't mean the drawing underneath these paintings, but I see the energy from drawing in this work.
I really consider these more drawings than paintings. The paint is thin. I'm not really dealing with planes and building things up, you know, in paint. Which I have done in some of my other portfolios. When I was doing landscape up in the Catskills, I did a lot more painting of rocks and things. But these are really, I draw on it, and then I paint it, and it's a combination of, I use paint, but it's essentially driven by the drawing, by the line. Drawing is more, to me, more line.
Regina, do you actually do a drawing and then paint, or do you go straight at it with your brush? What's your process?
With these, I probably went straight at it with the brush and then drew into it. This is more of a painting. This is Alex, who unfortunately died from COVID a few months after that. And this was Take the A Train, when the group was, again, jamming. And what I'm trying to do in these large works is retain the immediacy. That I feel the drawing has a more of an immediacy than painting usually. This was, again, it was drawn first at it was a cruise on the Hudson River, a jazz cruise one night. And I did lots of drawing that night. And I liked the pastel that I had done, so I did a few larger pieces. This is what, 42 by 34. My drawings are, when I say drawings, most of my drawings are smaller than 9 by 12. Now they're 6 by 9, 8 by 10, whatever pad I've taken with me. This is one of the jazz singers, Kay, who I drew a lot. And here's an example of the drawings that, these are all done at the session. So these are, I don't know if they're 5 minutes, you know, some of them are a little longer, but obviously the guys don't stand still. So there's a lot of quick work. And I think the fact that this is Billy Kay, he's in his 80s, and I drew him for a number of years. So I think that helps, because I kind of knew him already, you know, so that I could approach it faster when you know your subject. This is a drawing of K. This is like, this is a 10 by 7. And they're very quick. They're all pen and ink. I usually start with the pen and ink, and then I do quick, some quick tone. This is also a 16 by 10.
Regina, when you draw and you're at the event, do you find it's harder because you're more self-conscious? Do you find it's easier because the music is informing you? What are sort of the ups and downs?
I've gotten used to it. It's a little hard at first. I remember when I was in college, Boss Miller was my watercolor teacher. And he said, if people carry around, you just take your brush and flick off the water and get rid of them. You know, and I kind of take that attitude of like, I'm doing what I'm doing. I usually, over here, it's an old auditorium, so I would have to sit in the first row because the light was very bad. I went with a few other friends, and we would just, you know, sit with our watercolors next to us and our sketchbooks on our lap and just ignore people. But as eventually some of the, you know, some people would come down off the stage and walk by and look and say, oh, gee, that's great. You know, they were all so pleased that we were drawing them that I kind of lost my inhibitions about it. So these are some
Let me ask another thing. Regina, what was some of your earliest things that you drew as an artist, and about what age did you start to draw, let's say, more than the average, or paint more than the average person?
Well, I liked art, but I wasn't good. I was not a natural born craftsman. You know, some people, I used to be very jealous. You know, some people in my classes, you know, in high school, Erasmus Hall, we had major art. I took major art, but really I was pretty bad. And some of these people would just be able to do a watercolor and draw and paint. And I really did not know how to do it. I mean, I just had to learn. I ended up as an art major in college, but I was an education minor, so I could teach. And after I had my master's in art, and I was married, I quit teaching for a while. And I went to the Art Students League because I really felt that I had never, ever learned how to draw. And I really wanted to. So that's the most recent. But before that, I actually did a series from my balcony before I changed apartments. When I changed apartments and lost my balcony, I really felt at a loss because I did a morning practice. I drew every morning when I woke up. And again, you'll see some large pieces like this that I did afterwards. This was a 51-inch by 36-inch watercolor. But it's based on, I drew every morning when I awoke, also from a sketchbook, and did a few of these larger works from it. But maybe it's backwards, but you see the larger works first. This is 30 by 2. This is the view from my balcony. I can see that much of the fireworks on July 4th. But generally, it was a view that I missed. And when I moved from there, that's when I ended up going to the jazz place because I just needed to find a place where I could settle in and have a project. Again, this is based on view from my balcony. These are the smaller drawings that I did, and it's here, 3rd Avenue, 12/2/16 at 8:30 a.m. So I would date them, and they were full time. Here, this is 6/19/16 at 7:30. That's looking up 3rd Avenue. This is on at 9 a.m.
You know, I want to stress the importance of something you said. I teach painting to neophytes, and I make the point that, you know, how do you get better at something? You get better by doing. And I know when I was a young artist, just like you expressed, no, I did have a very early interest. and I could do some things, but as far as, you know, that general mimetic skill of being able to copy, I did not have that. I was, you know, a C or a D. However, I stayed with it and I worked at it. And within a few years, you know, I had achieved that skill. I remember when I was at RISD at a summer program, the program they have for like high school juniors becoming seniors, I met some artists who could do a drawing that perfectly copied a chair or a car. And I remember looking at it and saying, wow. And they said to me, that's nothing. Anybody can learn how to do that.
Well,
And,
that's true, isn't it? I mean, I taught art, and that's what I said to everybody. You know, anybody, we all can do it. It's a matter of learning how to look. I mean, I really feel that I don't know how to do something until I really draw it. I mean, if I sit down, and right now, my project is I'm learning to draw dogs because I'm sheltering at home mostly, and there's a dog park near me. And I never drew dogs. I owned them, I loved them. But I never, if you told me draw a dog, I mean, if the dog's not in front of me, I really didn't know how to do it. If we have a chance, I'll show you some of them. It's different. I didn't even put them up yet. It's a different style. But these are all drawings. As you see, these are all the East view, unless having hundred or two. This is my northwest view, where I actually have the Empire State Building in 23rd Street. That's the building that went up on 22nd Street.
Harry, I have a question.
go ahead, Bob. Thank you.
From something you said about learning to paint. It's I think a famous actress once said, acting is easy, just don't be caught doing it. So I was thinking with painting, is there a point where you no longer are trying to paint, but you're just painting, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, if you're in, once you get into the groove, that's true. You just forget
Like
about
you're just painting, you're not trying to paint, you're just painting. Is that, you just get into, when, like, how long is that, does that different time frame for different people? Does that take a long time?
You know, as far as drawing, I think it takes, it's usually not great the first time, the first drawing that you do, you know, the first quick sketch. The longer you're into it and the more you loosen up and the more you forget about everything and just work on correcting what you know you didn't do right or catching what you didn't do. You know, when you focus on what it is that you're trying to do rather than making a painting.
Right.
You know, I'm trying to get maybe the relationship of one thing to the other, or the movement or something, or capture what I see. I don't think about what it's going to look like. It's
Right.
always a surprise.
And has there been any discussion in the art world about whether you would ask permission to draw someone? Like, is that ever come up where, you know, you go to someone on a street, you ask them if you weren't going to take their picture, if you had us, but do you ever, is there anything about, what if someone didn't want you to draw them? I mean, I know it's kind of an, you know, on the fringe kind of question, but I'm just wondering if that's ever come up.
It's a good question. Like right now, when I go to the dog park, I draw the dogs, but I don't try to draw the people. You know, and I'm just waiting for somebody to object. But they're delighted. You know, they pass by and they kind of, you know, they're all wearing masks, you know, but they kind of look and say, "Whoa!" People are mostly pleased. You know, okay. And if you're in a public place, when I worked at MoMA and I was in charge of publicity and all that stuff with the store and advertising. And MoMA is not a public place. So if we had a film shoot in the store, which focused on the products and all of that wonderful stuff, but we had to get permission of anybody whose space was shown because that was private property. But if you're out on the street, yeah, I think you're public. You're in the public domain, and I don't think you can.
And so that means, Bob, you can actually photograph people in a public space as well without asking them.
Yeah, yeah. So if it's public. Okay.
Any other thoughts on that question? Leah, just unmute. Leah, let's unmute you. Oh, she's doing the mime.
Mute.
There we go. Hi, Leah.
I said the work is refreshing and it calls to mind a tool that I use. I ask when I look at artwork whether it is self-conscious or self-conscious. And there's a lot of self-conscious work, which is, oh, look at me, look at what I can do. I'm in the groove. I'm just like everybody wants me to be. I'm really looking at my gallery possibilities. Oh, might this sell, etc. That's very self-conscious. And it comes across as a dilution of the authenticity in the work. Whereas when a person is self-conscious, which means conscious of themselves, they're not thinking of all of those issues. They're completely in the work. They're in the color, they're in the line. And you can see it in how, you know, in how refreshing the work looks.
I think that's an essential of being an artist, expressing yourself, your true self.
Yeah, but it can be filtered.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying, the more you kind of leave all that other baggage out, the better it is.
Absolutely.
You have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I have a comment. I think that Regina, I would have thought that, I thought you were going to say you started drawing when you came out of the womb, because it,
Oh, no. Seriously.
I personally, I understand that you learned how to draw. I don't know.
Would everybody check their background sound and just mute yourself if you have some sound coming through?
Okay, I don't know if that's me. No. But when I look at your work, I find it extremely creative and expressive, and I don't think those are things that one learns. I think that I understand that you learned maybe how to use line or whatever, but I think that, as Barry, you were saying, I think that most people can learn to render if they try hard enough. But I don't think that people can learn to be creative, or at least not everyone. I mean, I think they can learn, I think if it's innate, they can learn to express it, and a lot of people probably have a lot more creativity than they know that they have. But I find your work done in a very creative, expressive way, and I don't think that's something that you can learn. I think you have to have it in you. So.
Well, did I lose the share screen?
Yes, I just went to a larger screen for the conversation, Regina. Go ahead and respond.
Well, you know, I agree, Robin. I think that the learning is to allow us to do something without stumbling over that part of it, and allows us to be more creative. I think that the skill factor, whether you have it innately or whether you learn it, it's a tool. And if I can draw more easily, I don't have to think about it. You know, I've learned how to say, you know, this is this close compared to that. I can get it where I want it. And then I can get out of the way and just be freer and allow myself more. I think we're all have that possibility of being creative, and we don't realize how much we have.
Right.
But, I really believe that we can be creative. That we are creative.
Right. And I think a lot of people are afraid to lose control. They're afraid to let go of the control they have. And so they stick with something that they know. And I was trying to teach someone how to draw, he was complaining that he couldn't get away from doing, you know, landscapes. We couldn't get away from doing something that was, he found to be very sort of rigid. And I said, well, why don't you try to draw with your left hand? Or why don't you try to draw with your eyes closed? He would not do it. He would not do it. So there was something holding him back from, you know, allowing him to express that. And who knows what they would have been like. I mean,
I find, Regina, I find your drawings very expressive, as was mentioned, and also capturing the spirit of the moment, especially with the musician portraits. Like, you really captured their spirit in the drawing. In your building images, drawings, again, like, I love the way that you do it sort of by day, and some of them were really striking.
Thank you.
You know, capturing sort of the moment, and in the moment what you saw around you. And it's almost like a study, you know, like Third Avenue, it's like a daily study and sort of daily practice and routine and ritual.
Well, it was. I have, you know, probably a couple of hundred of each, and it's interesting because before I was doing this, my major interest for about 10 years was a whole different thing. It was working. Can I get back to this one, Barry?
Wait, yeah, let me, yeah, you should be able to screen share now if you like.
I'll hit share.
There you go.
This portfolio is called We Protest. And around 18, these are current. This is what I did for USPS, you know, the collaborative. It was about COVID and the fist bump, the Black Lives Matter. But for many years before that, I worked on this series, and it was called, I was involved with a group called the Granny Brigade. A friend of mine.
1 sec, let me mute everybody just so we could figure out who this is. Let's see. Oh, stopped automatically. Ghost in the machine.
Okay. So from around 2006 to around 2016, I painted almost exclusively the Grannies, the Granny Peace Brigade. It was a group of senior women who held an event and tried to, they tried to enlist at the recruitment station in Times Square at the height of the Iraq War, and as a result of their getting arrested and all that, they formed the Granny Peace Brigade. And a friend of mine was one of the women, and I sat in at their trial, and I started. And then at the end of that, they decided to form a coalition of all of these people, and they called it the Granny Peace Brigade. And there were people from Code Pink and from women, you know, not women's rights, peace, the Grannies Against the War, and it was a whole lot of different things. So I started following them, and I didn't draw while I was with them because I was helping them hold a banner and hand out pamphlets, but I eventually, but I took a lot of photographs, you know, with my little cell phone. So I was able to do that, and eventually I ended up making this series of paintings. This was July 4th when they read the Constitution every year in Central Park. And this was at a rally, from a rally that they had about hoping that we wouldn't do to Iran what we did to Iraq. In other words, you know, drones and nukes and these were from, again, these were from mostly photographs of the women. This was when we protested Schumer, who did not vote for the Iran deal. There was a big protest in front of his building. And what happened was that I really feel that these paintings are not, they're not right. They're not what I had really wanted. I really wanted to keep the spontaneity of the drawings, and somehow in trying to be more narrative. Not this one so much. This was the Women's March, you know, and this is Pastel. And maybe I shouldn't have been working big. I mean, the others are big and they're in oil paint and all. These are a little smaller and a little faster. But it's always, for me, it's always been a conflict, because don't forget, I grew up with the abstract expressionist movement, you know, and I was kind of always a little embarrassed that I wasn't more abstract. And I've given up on that. I don't want to be abstract, but I just want the paintings to be paintings and not renditions. Not, I'm sure you know what I mean. And this was somehow, the faster I work, the better, you know, but I was never able to just leave it. And this was a few years ago. It was more recent, at Washington Square, the International Women's Day. But again, you know, it's like And oh, this was when Occupy Wall Street started, when it became global. It was very exciting.
Regina, I'm going to open up to a question or two. I do want to comment on some points that were made. I think we sort of all understand that you could sort of learn how to copy. And when I was at RISD, that little bit, I remember an artist who had perfected the use of her hand, so to speak, to be able to copy. And she was doing engravings and copper plates, which is very challenging. She went ahead and used her left hand, and then she perfected her ability with her left hand. So just to show you can learn both. But I think the larger question, can you also learn creativity? That is a question. Think of it. If you listen to jazz music, does that somehow feed a part of you, or classical music? And can you learn through something that's not painting and drawing, but it can sort of open up your creative side? Can you learn from taking care of a plant how to be creative? So, and of course, with modern technology and computers and artificial intelligence, they are trying to teach computers how to be creative. There can be a very large argument there. Can you ever do it? But you can sometimes look to reduce humans down to computers with synapses, with relationships and responses and learned behavior. So it's not like an open and closed question. So it is complicated. To Bob's earlier question, I'd like to say, think of a golfer taking a golf swing. He does learn the grip in the beginning. He does learn where to follow through. You learn all the steps, but once a golfer is good, he doesn't think of any of the steps. His body has learned the motion, just like a tennis player. You've got to follow through, but they don't think it. The body learns the language. And I think with painters and ceramicists, especially working in clay, you sort of know where I can go on the wheel or what I can do to clay. So yes, in the beginning, you've got to focus on the elements. As Regina said, I can't draw a dog without looking at it, but if I look at it, I will look at the dog and I will draw it. So I can develop that skill, but it is important to sort of open yourself up to be able to sort of take in outside influences to feed your creative side. There's no question about it. It's and with any questions in the arts, you're never going to get a definitive answer. And that's what I think are the great questions. 2 + 3, it's 5. There's no way around it unless it's bunny rabbits in a cage, and then you get a lot more depending on the amount of time. But in the arts, all the questions can always be answered on different sides and debated, and sort of that's the richness comes out of that texture, I think. Let me open up to any questions. I do want to say, Regina, very nice comments. Elaine saying, beautiful presentation. You document your life with such creative presence. Thank you for sharing. Jill, Regina, love your musical drawings and city views. Eloise, love your drawings, Regina. Yeah, a lot of nice compliments. There is a chat function. That's where I'm reading from. If anybody wants to, they can go in it. And thank you. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
Can I speak to Regina for a second?
Of course.
So Regina, I just want to say, even though the pieces seem to have a strong narrative, they are, I feel, very powerful abstractly. Like if I squint my eyes a little from a distance, they really compositionally just fill the space, and the way your rhythm with color and movement. And so to think that you don't have some underlying abstract totality to the piece, I think that's what makes them really powerful. And I feel like, what you were saying, Barry, about learning the tools to a certain, whether it's golf or painting or drawing, those tools are what allow us to have the skill set so that it becomes second nature. Like you don't want to have to think about it. So that's why we need to learn these things. But if you get too rigid in your representational, where you have to draw something exactly as it looks, that's where being a great renderer is really limiting, because like, I think it's good that you're not too, you know, perfect on your making everything look just as it is, because then it would lose all that personality that you bring. And it's really, there's so much vitality, and you capture so much with the music. You can hear them playing, and I really love the work. And I think those other pieces, because you photograph them first, that's why they feel maybe less loose, because you are coming from something already composed in a flat way. But
it's true.
But they're really strong, I think. So
thank you. You know, I really felt that I wanted my paintings to have the same immediacy as the drawings, and I just went too far. You know, I was afraid to leave the bare canvas, you know, or the spaces. I kind of filled it in, and you don't have time to do that when you're doing
it's harder to do when you're doing something in person. You have a limited time, and you know, even like Barry, what you were saying last night about that one painting that you did that you didn't get to finish, and how strong it was because you didn't overwork it and finish it. You could see every brush stroke had meaning. It's the same thing. You know, when we have the time and we're working from a photograph and it's bigger, you tend to work into it more and more, and, you know, but there can be something beautiful still to that. So, but it loses that energy that maybe some of the other things, but they're beautiful. You should be feeling good about the whole thing, really.
Thank you.
I wanted to say also that I find very interesting that you put the date and the time. I like having, I mean, I'm not personally not a fan of titles, but it adds to it, because it really, you know, I don't care if it is finished or unfinished. I just know that you were there and that you capture the moment, and that for me is more important maybe than having the right perspective or being more figurative. So I really appreciate having that information as part of the work. And
it was important to the work. I felt that here I was on a balcony, and I had 3 views. I could look this way, and this way, you know, and there were 3 views. And I was doing this for like 3 years, maybe. I'd wake up at 4 in the morning. If it was light enough, I'd go out and I'd draw then. You know, you don't sleep that well sometimes. And it was, the date and the time was important, because every day it was different. I could do the same view, sitting the same place, looking the same one, and every day it was different, because of the weather, because of the time of day, because of the materials that I was using, and because of what I focused on in that view. So it was important. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just line up all the Februaries and see. You know, I never knew, I still don't know, and I haven't really shown them, which is another part of the problem, because
I don't know how this works.
I'm all over the place, and I don't know how to show any of this work. You know, it just doesn't seem, I don't know. Anyhow, that's another night.
Yeah, and Regina, I also like a lot, you know, when you are more, when you give yourself the freedom of being there. I don't know exactly how you work, but when you paint and then you use the line, the black line on top, that it kind of merges together the people and the space. I think that I don't know, that gives a vibrancy to all the painting, and that mixture. Sometimes it even becomes a little bit dirty. And I don't know, I really enjoy that aspect of your work too. Thank you.
Thank you. It's funny, because when in college, when we were painting, you know, we kind of learned never to use a black line, never to use a line. It was all, you know, edges and shapes and planes and whatever. And it was I hesitate a lot in using black line. I use it freely when I start with it, when I'm drawing, you know, just when I'm doing a pen and ink sketch, that's fine. But it's very, it's a little hard to edit. afterward because I feel like I don't know, I'm cheating somehow.
There's a lot we have to unlearn.
Beware what you're told in art school by teachers. Beware of criticism you get. It's quite often wrong, and it comes from a very specific point of view. Thank you again, Regina. You're welcome. We are going to move forward. Robin Halpern will give a presentation. Keep in mind, we can hear your audio. Most of us are muted. We do have somebody coming through every once in a while. I do try and mute somebody. Just be conscious of that. Yes, we will help you, Robin, with any difficulties you come in. And Bob, I just want to make the analogy when Michael Jordan plays basketball and shoots, he's in the flow, just like an artist, and you sense an artist. When you're doing it, you're moving, there's a sort of total harmony. And if you go to break it down, like the Romans try to find the ideal, beautiful proportions, and when they did, they found the sculpture didn't look beautiful, because there's got to be that element of something different. And so you've got to get beyond you somehow have to incorporate something. Maybe it's your heartbeat, your pulse. You have to use not just the frontal lobe that's sort of analytical, but you got to use our ancient brain, sort of the back, and the whole thing. And that somehow gets the creative process. It accesses deeper things. And if you look at great artists, take Picasso, he would hit a style and then he would move to another style. And I respect that because he was pushing himself. He wasn't just going to paint Picasso, which he eventually did as he got older. And when you end up copying yourself, well, it's like when you have a film and then you get a film of the film, you sort of lose a bit of the quality as you go. It degrades. So it's very important. And I think that's why artists are constantly searching and changing their style and pushing themselves, and not being safe is very important, and exploring new things. And one thing I've seen from this group of very young ladies is that often you do push for new work, new mediums, new materials, and you come excited with new ideas. And I think that's very important to feed the creative process, and also to feed yourself as an individual. I am taking up guitar. I am a terrible guitar player. I can only get better. And it's going to do something for my mind, and my incremental growth at some point will be very high. Whereas I painted since I was young, and it takes a lot of work to sort of push certain envelopes, to let go of certain things I've learned. So I think, and eventually my music, if it ever is music, will feed my art. And so that's sort of an attempt. It's not a direct line. It could be you go for a walk and something inspires you. Often we've seen tragedy in somebody's life changes an artist's work. So it can be outside influences you don't expect, but that tragedy propels the artist to do amazing work because it sort of cuts a hole right to their soul. And the art is sort of the cathartic release for the experience. So let's move forward to Robin. And Bob, keep your questions coming. I love them.
Thanks for having me. I have to go, but I enjoyed it.
Bob is my brother-in-law. I'm a big fan of Bob. We've had great discussions over the years. And yeah, Bob is not an artist.
I'm an artist in emotions.
There you go.
That's my specialty, emotions and what they mean. So that's a whole different discussion. But I enjoyed seeing everybody, and Barry, and I'll be back.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Well, you could say artists are doctors in emotions too. Obviously, you're getting in touch with your own. So it is very much similar to what he said.
Barry?
Yes.
Barry, I have a question. I've never used chat before, and I tried to chat in a message for Regina, but it didn't come out right. What do? You hit the chat?
You know what you did? You actually did it right, but you did it to everyone, and then you wrote Fran Kornfeld to everyone. So what I would say is when you saw the word everyone, if you click on it, you'll get a choice to hit an individual artist, you know, of the 17 participants.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Barry, I have a question.
Yes.
Barry, if I might, I put something in the chat and it didn't acknowledge it. It sort of, it was the thank you for your presentation. I find your work alive with movement, light, energy, and happiness. But it didn't say from whom. And I was wondering why everybody else had from whom for me.
Oh, it says, I see. Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, it says from Gloria.
Oh, not on mine. Thank you. Oh, never mind. Mine just says to everyone, and that's all. Then it says the words.
Yeah,
okay.
So yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
it. You're welcome.
Never mind. Bye.
Again, as well, you can always pin somebody's video if you want to see them large. There are little tricks for Zoom. They're all quite easy, actually. I am no techno specialist, but I do feel comfortable with this format. I keep looking over. I'm ready, Robin. You ready to dive in?
Yeah, I'm also, I realize I'm having audio issues, but so.
You sound good. You sound very good. Yeah.
Sometimes when people are talking, it just silent. It goes in and out. So hopefully it's okay. Also, we're missing Fran, our tech person. So she was the one who helped me last time. So hopefully someone else can help.
Michael is quite the expert here as well.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm depending on you. So I'm going to show I have about, let's see, about 11 pieces that I thought would be fun to show. They were fun to do. They were a departure from my usual work in not so much what they look like, but how I did them. They started out as photographs and that I had taken at some point a while ago. And then I got the idea that I'd like to actually, they were black and white photographs of portraits. And I have a long history of doing portraits, but not from photographs. Probably from a model or just from my head. And so I decided to do mixed media on top of the photographs. And I think we had somebody several weeks ago that, I don't know if it was the photographer. Barry, do you remember we had someone several weeks ago that did something on photographs, painted on photographs, or someone did, and excuse me, to show these. Do you remember?
We had Lawrence showed us some photographs that he had manipulated digitally.
Maybe that was it, I don't know.
Oh, it may have been someone else.
Maybe that was it. I don't know if Jill, did you do anything like that? Photographs?
I've done image transfers on photographs or on watercolors.
Maybe it was you. I don't.
Image transfers.
Yeah, maybe. And you showed us some. So anyway, so I'll try. So I'm going to click screen share. Okay, and then click desktop. Okay, Michael, what should I do now? I'm clicking desktop.
You click share screen, the green button at the bottom. Okay.
Oh, I did that already. Let me do it again. Okay. Share screen and then desktop. Oh, do I have to click share down here?
Okay.
Yeah, you did it. That was it.
Okay.
Did it? Okay.
We're gonna give Michael credit for that one.
Okay. So so then I click on the image. I click on the first image. Come on.
If you double click on that image, it should replace this one you have.
Okay. My computer is
just takes
trying,
time.
but
patience is something we all need to learn. So
let me try another image. I can see it's trying to open, but then it doesn't want to. Oh. The dreaded spinning beach ball.
I do want to say there was a comment from iPad, I'm not sure who it was, said, Regina, your work is wonderful. Love the gestural movement. And I think a point I wanted to make, as one of those works, you really, the negative space, there you go, they're all opening now. The negative space that you leave open, the unfinished element that you mixed into the finished painting really activates the piece and gives it movement, Regina. And it is hard to know when to stop. And yes, as Wendy pointed out, I think I've overpainted too many of my paintings. It's very good to leave the negative space. Look at a Gorky. The negative space is so important in the artwork.
And Barry, recently a group of us were reading different things about artists, women artists, whatever. And the point was made that it was about the brain. Leopoldo would know about this. That it's very important not finish, to leave something for the viewer to finish. And I think that's what the danger is when we overpaint something, that it's all there and the viewer does not interact with the piece as much.
Yeah, I'll make one more point. Think of the great horror films. They don't necessarily show you the monster. They let your mind fill it in, and that's an important element, and I think that's the parallel. So go ahead, Robin. We see a very brushy, very expressionistic figure.
Okay, so these are all 8 by 10, 10 by 8, whatever. And this one is paint. This one's acrylic. They're all mixed media, but so it's mostly acrylic, I think. Okay. This one is oil pastel.
And collage.
I sort of like the range there, Robin. You could almost look at those two works and assume they were from two different artists.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here you're in circular forms, very much contained, except for the hair maybe, but it is still contained. The other work was very loose hand. You know, here you're coloring in areas that are somewhat defined and with edges, whereas the other piece, you know, the brush is fluid and you know, it's very, very different. And I like that in art.
Okay. He's done over photographs?
Yes.
Now, when you say over photographs, what do you mean by that? You're literally painting on top of the photo?
On top of the photo. I actually took the photo, it was a black and white photo, and actually just painted on top of the photo. And then I adhered the photo onto the canvas. So this one is oil pastel and paper. Here's the paper. Here's the paper. These pieces of paper. Oil, it's mostly, I think this is mostly oil pastel on top of the photograph.
I like that idea very much, what you're doing. I have a very limited series where I've taken posters of famous artworks that people threw out. I save them, and then I paint right on top of Van Gogh's cafe or right on top of a Monet landscape.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great art exercise for students to do, to try and see if you could, you know, match the color, match the stroke. How would you compose the painting? It gives you great insight into the artist.
Yeah. So here's another, this is paint on the paper here, and this is collage, some paper on top of that. And this is this eye here is from it's a black and white newspaper. It's from a newspaper.
I like it looked like Chinese handwriting that you had in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. From a Chinese or some Asian newspaper. So here's more of that. This is more collage. This is oil pastel. This is paper, this decorative paper. This is, this nose is from a magazine. And so's that, one of the eyes also, I think, from a magazine. Oil pastel. So the portrait underneath, you know, it sort of informs the piece, but obviously it's a takeoff, and sometimes the person who, they're pretty much identifiable. Okay. Though some of the people don't recognize themselves. Here's another one, oil pastel collage using newspaper. And this is decorative paper.
Excuse me, Robin. How large are these pieces?
These are all of them are, it's a series. All of them are 10 by 8 inches.
Okay, thank you.
Inches.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're wonderful.
Thank you. This is oil pastel with this is paper. This is old paper. It's paper. Gosh, up top. This is a combination of paint and ink and some paper collaged. This is probably well, because it's more realistic than some of them. This is paint, acrylic, and some paper. This is one of the doormen, former doormen from my apartment building. And this is also, this is acrylic. I think it's all acrylic. Right.
Veronica Pena wrote, "Love the metamorphosis in the portraits." And I mean, this is a very smart use of getting way beyond the blank canvas. I mean, you go right from the form underneath, and then you layer it in a very creative way.
Yeah, very layered. All my things are very layered. Here's another one using a lot of paper, different types of paper. Acrylic. Yeah, it's just acrylic.
Jill says, "Fantastic works, Robin." And Leah says, "Wonderful work."
Have you been able to exhibit these works?
Some of them were part of an exhibit in a show that I had some years ago upstate where I am. It was interesting. They were mounted as a grid on a wall, and there were more of them. There were probably about 20 of them. Some of these are newer, so they weren't in the show, but these are actually my brother and my nephews, and I got into big trouble with a few of them. You learn to never paint anyone's children. You can get into big trouble, especially the way I paint. The way I paint. Yeah, I learned my lesson. So that's it. That's it.
Very nice.
Yeah, so that was fun.
I think first little applause, and then we'll open it up to questions. Very nice, Robin. Snaps and claps.
I think the applause was the fact that it actually worked.
It worked very well. It's just a question of taking time. That's all.
Yeah.
I'll open it up to anybody, obviously, who likes to ask any questions, any thoughts. Robin, have you done self-portraits like this?
Yeah, I have a bunch of self-portraits I did, but not with photographs, not from just from my, either looking in the mirror or just doing it freehand.
Which do you
without looking
prefer?
at anything.
How do you prefer to work, Robin?
What did you say?
How do you prefer to work, from the photographs or the way you were doing it directly from the person? It's quite a different.
I haven't done that in doing directly on the photographs. I haven't done that in a while. And in the past few years, I've been working mainly just abstract. But all of the portraits that I've done, I think I showed some of them last time or a couple times ago. I'm looking at them now. Some of them were inspired by a model. Some were just in my head. Different. I work differently. I don't know how. I don't know if I can say I prefer to work in.
Do you share the images with the people from the photos?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, do I show them? Did you ask me? Do I show?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's why I thought I got into big trouble with a couple of them.
Well, I'm talking about the grown-ups. What, the feedback from the grown-ups.
Well, this was the mothers who really freaked out when they saw what I did. They're very upset. Very upset. I mean, one of them I redid because it was so upsetting to her. And the other one, I took off my website for a while at some point because it was upsetting. It was a while ago, but yeah, it was an interesting experience.
I think sometimes people don't understand that when an artist does a figure, it's not necessarily about the person under the figure. The artist can be just using that as a jumping ground. They can be putting themselves in there, or they could just be going for expression and content, and it can be irrelevant of the figure. For a while when I drew, and for a long time, I draw everybody and make them look really old. It's just my drawing style at times. So it's really not about, and for other people it is. They're trying to get at the essence of the person, and that's one way to paint. But for other people, it's about the painting, where it goes, and if you can hit a certain deep expression. And it could have nothing to do with the character of the person. It all depends on what the artist chooses, I think.
Well, that's what you said at the beginning about your family member that asked the questions, that the outside world sees differently than the inside artists community.
Right.
Right. For us, it's not a big, I mean, we take it as like Barry said, like an inspiration, a departure, or,
Right. I can show, if we have another few minutes, if I can do it again, there are 3 self-portraits I did that are on the screen. I can try it again, let me see.
Sounds good. Look at this, you become so technically swift, you're going at it again, Robin.
Did that work?
Of course it did. We're giving Michael the credit, though. Good going, Michael.
Okay. Okay, so here's a self-portrait I did. It was a monoprint. It was a long time ago. It was a monoprint with pastel on top of it. That's one. And this is one I did a few years ago. These are also about 8 by 10, 10 by 8. This is a oil pastel.
Let me ask you a question, Robin. I used to do a lot of portraits, and I think seeing everybody do portraits is inspiring me to go back into it. But one thing I know when I do portraits, and I see it when you're doing it, you do the figure, and then what do you do with the background? It's sort of, do you find there's no problem, you just do what you do, or is there an issue of that space around the figure?
No, I don't, when I create, this one is also paint with some paper, attached.
Well, you're laying down a base color in that one. You had like that orange, and so if you often, I
don't really. There's not a lot of thinking. There's not when I do my work. Sometimes I'll just literally throw the paint on just to have something on there so it's not blank. And oftentimes whatever I initially throw on, that layer, is covered. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore, visually, but it just sort of works out. I don't really think about it.
Oh,
I'm not aware of.
Her hair fills the background, Barry.
Right, my hair fills the background. It's no space, right.
Leah, go ahead.
Robin, I was just checking out your website and looking at, am I muted, by the way?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, checking out your abstract work, and then I see in your background that you're a psychotherapist, and I've been fascinated by what happens to my subjects when I do a portrait in terms of a complete, it's kind of a strange phenomena takes place. As I do sculpt their portrait, they see themselves as they never have before. Mm-hmm. Are you using any of your portraits with the people in your practice?
No.
No.
No, it didn't. I think my work which I think I wrote in my bio, that my work as a therapist informs my artwork, but it's not in any direct way. I've never brought it into my work, as a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that being a therapist, doing portraits of people, that's a relationship between your work and your...
Yes, because I'm captivated by people's faces, by their expressions, and so I think a lot of it's intuitive.
Yeah, it feels a connection because they are so expressive.
Yeah. So.
Very nice, Robin. I want to thank you all. I do want to, before I sort of close tonight, last week we had something quite unique. We had EVO, an organization for Jewish research. It is on our YouTube. In fact, all these talks are on our YouTube. I've written up a little description about everything too. So if you go to Artist Talk on Art, you'll get to our channel and you can see. And last week was quite different. It was a museum, an online museum, and it was more historical. But I think it was interesting, and we're trying to expand the programming and what we do here. And we had very good response. So I'll just put it out there. You can take a look at the YouTube page, YouTube channel, and see what we do. Again, I want to thank you all. We're going to go another 2 weeks. It probably won't go the last Monday in December. Give everybody a Monday night off. Again, Michael Krasowitz does something Thursday nights at 7 o'clock through Facebook. Right, Michael? That's Thursday at 7 on
It's actually on Zoom also.
Oh, it's on Zoom also. Okay. Okay, very good. And do reach out to Michael. He is deeply connected to whether it's the Brooklyn Rail or, what good Zooms are out there for you to sort of enjoy. And, Michael also is a very giving heart. He does like to share. I want to thank you all for coming. This is ATOA, Artist Talk on Art. ATOANYC.org is our website. I'm Barry Kostrinsky, BarryKostrinsky@gmail. If you could spell Kostrinsky, you'll have no problem with the Barry or the Gmail part. Good luck with that. But you can send me any questions, anything you like. any contribution is always welcome. And thank you. This is a community. Everybody's sort of coming together as a group. I couldn't be happier. And, you know, we always have some new people, and I'm always reaching out to other people, and we have some interesting talks coming. We had interesting presentations tonight that went quite deeply, and I thank you, Regina, and thank you, Robin, and to everybody, snaps and claps. We make a nice group. Round of applause. That's the way to go. Very nice, everybody.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Barry. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming, Fran. Fran was a board member for many years with the ATOA. Spread the word to some that have maybe forgotten about us, Fran. And to everybody here, spread the word to your friends if they find it interesting. Artists that would like to show anything at all, anything bad, don't say it. Nah. Nothing bad here. There's a lot of smiling faces, a good group. And Veronica, you and I will talk another time. I look forward to what we come up with together. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great
It was a
night.
great night.
Very good.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Do you have something planned for next week?
I have one or two artists that are looking to talk. Let me stop the recording.